this is Zachary Barter with the Eklund Opera program at the University of Colorado Boulder. As we go into the final days of preparation for our production of Mozart's Così fan tutte, I am joined by lead soprano and tenor Rebecca Kidney and Max Hosmer. Thank you for being here today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So as we go into this final week of production, what's the preparation looking like?
Right now I feel a little drained because we've been rehearsals straight since last Monday. We've been in rehearsals every day. Tonight's our final dress, and then tomorrow we get to sit back and watch the other cast, and then Thursday we get off. So, kind of looking forward to being done tonight.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
All right, Max, you're playing lead tenor role Ferrando. Mm-hmm. So, can you tell us just a little bit about your character?
Ferrando, he's a soldier. He and Guglielmo are friends in the army, and they are both engaged as pair sisters, Fiordiligi and Dorabella. Guglielmo's more the headstrong one. I'm a little more sensitive than
lover,
he
not
is.
A fighter.
The little lover, not a fighter. Yeah, which makes his pairing with Dorabella, who's a little more freer, a little more impulsive.
Impulsive is a good word.
A little interesting.
So, Rebecca, you're playing Fiordiligi, the lead soprano role of this opera, who is not reserved, but she does stay at least faithful pretty much to the end of the performance. What is your character like? How have you gotten prepared for this acting challenge?
Well, the one thing about Fiordiligi is she's similar to Dorabella in the way that she thinks about cheating on Guglielmo, but I think she has a real deep sense of shame and how she's seen. I think that's what holds her back more about how other people would see her. And I think, putting it in a 50s setting makes it more real to me, because I think, a teenager thinks they're too cool and they're so worried about how they're viewed as people. So that's kind of how I see her.
Do you think that self-perception has a big part in this opera?
I wouldn't say a big part. I think it's more of a second layer to her, but I think it definitely drives a lot of what she does. I mean, most teenage girls, I think, take a lot of what other people think of them and that's how they treat themselves, which is not always great, but that's what she does.
And in this performance, we're portraying Fiordiligi and Dorabella as these kind of high society women. In last year's season, you played Mimi in La Boheme. So how did that role, a person who is very sick and unable to afford the treatment that she needs, how do these two roles differ from one another?
Personality-wise, I think they differ quite a lot. Mimi is pretty shy, but once you get her talking, she just kind of goes and goes. Whereas Fiordiligi, I don't think is shy at all, and I think she's almost the exact opposite. Is when you get her in a one-on-one situation, she knows less what to say. She's better in a big group.
Yeah, and Max, so what would you say is the real big picture idea of your character's relationship, not only with Guglielmo, but also with the two women?
There's definitely a rivalry with Guglielmo. I think this bet, trying to make the other one's unfaithful, it starts off as us versus Don Alfonso, and then it progresses into kind of us against ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like we're trying to make the other guy jealous with the other guy's girl. There's definitely rivalry there. Well, I think I was saying, like, it's interesting that he starts off with Dorabella, who is very impulsive, and which is very different from what he is. So at the end, when he gets together with Fiordiligi, who's more stoic, more, I don't want to say prideful. What's
noble?
Noble, yeah. It's interesting that they kind of fit together in that way. Well, he and Dorabella also fit together, just in an opposites attract kind of way.
Of course. So you've had to probably work out a lot of character development with Ferrando. How has that really played into that whole acting challenge of the role?
Well, it's interesting because the character arc of the story isn't very well defined. Because he doubles back on himself a lot. He's into the bet, he's not into the bet, full-heartedly talking about how much he's in love with Dorabella, and then in the background he's kind of thinking about Fiordiligi. It's a very messy plot. You kind of have to just go with the twists and turns as it comes.
And of course it all does happen all in one single day. So do you think this is more of a realistic look at life, or do you think this is kind of far-fetched? How does it really tie into the real life aspect of things?
Well, it's opera, so it's always going to be a little far-fetched. But in the realm of opera, it makes sense. You know? I mean, the thing that you really have to suspend with your disbelief is the disguises. You know, you're engaged to someone. I want to believe I would know exactly who they are, whether or not they're wearing...
But put a mustache on them and I can't tell the difference.
You'd be able to tell by the way they walk, by the way they speak, by all the stuff. But, you know, it's just part of the show. But within the realms of opera, it could happen. Why not?
One of the big aspects of this show is the sexuality and the concept of cheating on lovers when they're off to war and the possibility of them never coming back. How have you approached that as an actress? Have you seen that as something where you really invest yourself in this one person, or you kind of don't really attach to either and you just are just willy-nilly?
Well, I can't really speak for them, but Dorabella, I think, is more willy-nilly. I think, you know, perhaps Dorabella is afraid of being alone, you know, doesn't know if they're going to come back. I mean, they don't know if they're going to come back or if they're going to die or what's going to happen. And I think Fiordiligi wants to believe that they are going to come back. And but when she does something, she does it 110%. So when she does fall in love, it's for real. It's not just because he's there.
Maestro Carthy was saying the other day that this opera is basically about being in love with someone while being attracted to someone else. It's kind of pointing out the human side of attraction and love.
So as far as realism goes, that's a very real aspect to it.
There's do I want to say fable kind of quality to this opera?
Yeah.
It's kind of presenting a moral that isn't exactly a moral. It's kind of a rule of human nature.
And as far as operas go, this one does kind of get more to the sensual side of things our poster for the opera is, of course, a woman's breasts and, you know, kind of spilling out of a corset. So we do have the very sexual approach to it. How has that part of it been? Have you felt comfortable with it? I mean, obviously working together as actors, you are friends outside of the opera as well. Has that affected your relationship at all?
No.
Not really.
We had to be in love in Bohème before, so it's just like...
It's on stage. It doesn't count.
There's a lot of kissing in this show.
Yeah,
so that's one thing that's
fun about opera.
It's very... Yeah, sure. It's fun.
Going back to last year in La Bohème, so the first time that you two had to really interact on stage in the romantic way, how did you navigate that? Were there weird feelings? Was it kind of a tense moment? Or was it just kind of you both felt natural doing it since it was just for the stage?
I feel like it's something you have to practice. It's just like stage movement. You have to get it in, and it takes a little time to get comfortable with each other, but once it's there, it's there.
Right, and you know, if you think of it as a character is falling in love with a character, it's more natural, I think, than if I, Rebecca, am playing this role and Max is playing, you know, and...
Absolutely. So when you're going through that, do you have really an approach, or do you just really let it happen?
I really appreciate when people just go for it.
Yeah. There's no awkward, like...
Yeah, when there's no, like, oh...
Are you gonna kiss me now?
Do you want to... Just come here.
Yeah. The only time I've ever been kind of awkward about it is if you are, like, really close friends with someone, it can be a little weird. Not that we're not close friends.
Not that we're...
With all of this happening in the opera, outside of the opera, Max, you just got engaged last semester. So has this had any effect on how you view your relationship, if not the actual relationship itself?
Good question.
Burn this recording. No, I think it, like I said, it kind of reflects a very human aspect of, like, you can be in love with someone and still be attracted to them, but still be attracted to other people. And I think that's a very human thing. It's not a question of infidelity. It's ooh, that looks nice. I don't know, the rehearsal aspect's been a little hard just because she works most days and I work in the evening, so we haven't seen a lot of each other lately. But not the actual, like, things on stage haven't been a huge issue.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. So this show, when literally translated, it says women are like that. So there have been a lot of conversations about the sexism in the show and how we paint women as these kind of infidelious creatures who don't really have a whole bunch of stuff going for them other than the fact that they're pretty. How do you feel about that as a woman playing a role like this?
Well, I try not to think of it as this is a sexist thing. Don Alfonso is a sexist man. And that, I mean, any day and age, there's going to be sexist people. So it doesn't bother me that, that, you know, we said it in this time period and in a hopefully less sexist time period than it was written. But I try not to think of it as that's how everyone in the show is. Because, I mean, I think the guys are kind of thrown into it because Alfonso is so charismatic and pushing them into doing it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he is incredibly sexist, but that doesn't mean that everyone that is in their quote unquote fictional lives is going to act like that.
Of course.
Yeah. It is interesting because compared to like Marriage of Figaro, which is actually really realized in a feminist manner, the character of Susanna especially, comparing this to it can be troubling because it's like, that just seems really sexist. But part of the thing I think that can help save it is at the end, it doesn't, the score does not specify who winds up with who. Mm-hmm. For me, personally, not giving away any spoilers, of course, for me personally, putting them back with their original partners just comes off, that's when it really seems sexist to me, when it's like, oh, those silly women, now go back to what you're doing.
Well, that's what he says at the end, too. See, now you guys are perfect for each other, because now you have no secrets, and you know, go back to your original partners and get married.
Yeah.
It just makes your tummy grumble.
It's not an easy question.
Yeah.
So do you think that this somewhat problematic element kind of at least contributes to the humor of the show and possibly spreads a message of awareness?
It's definitely part of the point.
Okay.
The opera's like theme, its moral, is definitely reflected by the fact that there's not a definite ending.
So Rebecca, moving on to the next upcoming opera, which we have already started rehearsals for, what is your role in L'Incarnazione di Popea?
I'm playing Drusilla. So Ottone is in love with Popea. Ottone is Popea's former lover before Nero. And Drusilla is in love with Ottone now. It's kind of a love shape. It's more than triangle.
Of course.
Hexagon or something.
So obviously the music for Popea, Monteverdi, is entirely different from Mozart. So what kind of differences do you take in the approach to practice or to preparation?
Well, it is different, but there's a lot of similarities. I mean, there's a lot of recit. It's different recit, definitely, but it has the same, it's language driven. So you have to know where your stresses are and know exactly what you're saying before you put it to the music. So I think there's a similarity in that. But yeah, the music is different overall. And I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's really exciting to be able to do an opera that's so old.
And what's funny about it being so old is that we're jumping instead of to maybe the 1950s or 60s, we're jumping into the future, granted the near future. So how do you think that the 2020 setting is going to affect the reading of this very old opera?
Well, I think it'll be transferred really well, because you think these characters and these human emotions of love and sex and jealousy and power and thirst for coveting and envy. I think those are all human emotions that happen all the way back to, Cain and Abel, really. And I think you can put it at any time, and it's the humanity of it will speak through.
So Max, coming up after we finish up with Così, you're going to not be doing Popea, but instead doing Tosca in April. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I grew up in Modesto, California, and we have a local company there, Townsend Opera, which lately has really started to take off. The general director just also became the general director for Fresno Grand Opera, so it'll be in Modesto for a weekend, and then it'll go down to Fresno later that week. for one more performance, which will be fun. But they were having auditions when I was home for a holiday and this past summer, and auditioned for them, and they offered me this role, which means I get to spend a few weeks with my family while also getting paid to do what I want to do.
And how does preparing for a role over a long distance really work out? Have you ever had to do that before?
Yeah, I actually sung with them 2 years ago now. I was Gastone in their Traviata. In this school setting, we have the opportunity to just kind of like coach it and rehearse it with everyone for a few weeks and then slowly stage it. So we have the chance to look at it beforehand, but also get a chance to learn it as we do it. For something like this, we have to show up with it memorized, ready to go, which takes a different kind of preparation, a lot more work by yourself.
So it's quite different from the scholastic setting of opera.
Very much, very much. But it's a realistic setting because that's where it is everywhere else, so it's good to know how to do that.
And Rebecca, you've also had some experience outside of the scholastic opera setting, so how has that been for you?
Similar to what he said, you have to know it when you're there. My grad school is like that. You coach it on your own time, and then the first rehearsal you are off book or near off book.
Okay.
Pretty typical.
Since you are a performance certificate, this is your final semester and final season with CU. So what's next for you?
This summer, I am an apprentice artist with the Des Moines Metro Opera, and I'm covering Kostolnichka in Janacek Sinufa and doing chorus and some scenes with them. And then audition and I think probably move to New York and just keep auditioning, keep trying to sing.
All right, very fun. And Max, you're going to be here next year. So.
I will be here next year.
So far for our upcoming season, we have announced Cenerentola as the fall opera. Mm-hmm. Do you have any feelings about that?
I absolutely love that opera, and Ramiro is a role that would be extremely good for me. It's a role that few people can sing, but I have the right kind of voice for. So it'd be a nice thing to have on the resume and to have under my belt.
All right, well, that's about all the time we've got for today. Thank you again, Max and Rebecca, for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
This has been Zachary Barger reporting for the Eklund Opera at the University of Colorado Boulder. We at the Eklund Opera would like to thank you for your continued support and urge you to like our Facebook page. Rebecca Kidney and Max Hosmer will be starring in Così fan tutte, opening Friday, March 13th and playing through Sunday, March 15th at Mackey Auditorium. Showtimes are 7:30 on Friday and Saturday evenings and 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. For ticketing information, see our website at cupresents.org.
Sospira,